Everything around us is made of tiny things called atoms. Atoms are so small you can't even see them. Nuclear weapons use the power inside these tiny atoms to create a huge explosion. This energy is called nuclear energy. Nuclear weapons are very different from regular bombs. Regular bombs use chemicals to explode. Nuclear bombs are much stronger. They can cause much more damage in a very short amount of time. The first nuclear weapons were developed in the 1940s during a time of war. Scientists were trying to find new ways to help their countries win the war. But these weapons turned out to be so powerful, they changed the world forever. In 1945, World War II was raging across the globe. Countries were fighting each other, and many people were dying. The United States was at war with Japan. The fighting had been going on for years. The United States wanted to end the war quickly. They were worried about how many more lives would be lost if the fighting continued. They made a decision to use a new powerful weapon, the atomic bomb. The city of Hiroshima in Japan was chosen as the target. Hiroshima was an important military city, and the US believed that bombing it would force Japan to surrender. On August 6, 1945, an American plane dropped an atomic bomb on Hiroshima. The bomb was nicknamed Little Boy. It was a uranium bomb, which is one type of atomic bomb. The explosion was massive. It instantly killed tens of thousands of people. Buildings were flattened for miles around. The heat from the blast was so intense that it set fire to everything in its path. Those who survived the initial blast faced a new horror: radiation sickness. Radiation is a dangerous, invisible energy released by the bomb. It made people very sick, and many died in the days, weeks, and years that followed. Section 4. The Cold War, a new arms race. After World War II ended, a new conflict emerged, the Cold War. This wasn't a war with fighting like World War II, instead it was a tense standoff between the United States and the Soviet Union. Both countries had nuclear weapons, and they were constantly trying to build bigger and more powerful bombs. This was called an arms race. Each country wanted to have the strongest weapons to deter the other from attacking. The Cold War created a climate of fear and suspicion around the world. People worried about the possibility of another nuclear attack, this time even more devastating than Hiroshima. Section 5. Tsar Bomba, the King of Bombs. This is the story of the most powerful nuclear weapon ever created and detonated by humankind. In 1961, at the height of the Cold War, the Soviet Union tested the most powerful nuclear weapon ever detonated, the Tsar Bomba. This was a period marked by intense rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union, with both superpowers amassing vast arsenals of nuclear weapons. Tsar is a Russian word for emperor, and this bomb truly was the king of bombs. It was a symbol of Soviet might and technological prowess, designed to showcase their dominance in the nuclear arms race. The Tsar Bomba was a hydrogen bomb, which is even more powerful than a uranium bomb. Hydrogen bombs, also known as thermonuclear bombs, use fusion, the same process that powers the sun, to release an unprecedented amount of energy. It was dropped over a remote island in the Arctic Ocean. This location was chosen to minimize the impact on populated areas, but the sheer power of the bomb meant that its effects were felt far and wide. The explosion was enormous, visible from hundreds of miles away. The fireball alone was 5 miles in diameter, and the heat from the blast could have caused third-degree burns up to 62 miles away. The Tsar Bomba was thousands of times more powerful than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. To put it in perspective, the Hiroshima bomb had a yield of about 15 kilotons of TNT, while the Tsar Bomba had a yield of 50 megatons. It created a mushroom cloud that reached 40 miles high. This cloud was so massive that it penetrated the stratosphere, and the top of the cloud spread out to a width of 60 miles. The shockwave from the blast circled the Earth 3 times. The seismic waves generated by the explosion were detected all around the globe, and windows were shattered hundreds of miles away from the test site. The Tsar Bomba remains a stark reminder of the destructive power of nuclear weapons and the lengths to which nations will go to demonstrate their military might. Section 6. 2 cities, 2 tragedies, the long shadow of nuclear weapons. The story of nuclear weapons is one of immense power and profound tragedy. It is a tale that spans decades and continents, leaving a lasting impact on humanity and the environment. Hiroshima and the test site of the Tsar Bomba are stark reminders of the terrible power of nuclear weapons. These sites serve as somber memorials to the destructive capabilities of mankind. The devastation wrought by these weapons is a testament to the need for caution and responsibility in their use. Hiroshima, once a bustling city, was left in ruins. The atomic bomb dropped on August 6, 1945, obliterated nearly everything within a 2-kilometer radius. Buildings crumbled, fires raged, and tens of thousands of lives were lost in an instant. The city, which had been a hub of culture and commerce, was transformed into a landscape of desolation and despair. The impact on the environment and the health of the survivors was long-lasting. Radiation from the bomb caused severe burns, radiation sickness, and long-term health issues such as cancer. The survivors, known as hibakusha, faced not only physical ailments but also psychological trauma and social stigma. The environment, too, bore the scars of the explosion, with contaminated soil and water affecting the ecosystem for years to come. The Tsar Bomba, thankfully, was not dropped on a city. This hydrogen bomb, tested by the Soviet Union on October 30, 1961, was the most powerful nuclear weapon ever detonated. Its explosion was so massive that it shattered windows hundreds of kilometers away and sent shockwaves around the globe. But its test blast showed the world just how destructive these weapons could be. The mushroom cloud reached an altitude of 64 kilometers, and the fireball was visible from a distance of 1,000 kilometers. The sheer scale of the explosion was a stark reminder of the potential for annihilation that these weapons hold. The area where it exploded remained contaminated for years. The test site, located on the remote Novaya Zemlya archipelago, became a barren wasteland. The radiation from the explosion rendered the land uninhabitable and caused long-term environmental damage. The test served as a grim warning of the consequences of nuclear warfare. The long-term effects of radiation from these bombs caused cancer and other health problems for many people. Survivors of nuclear explosions and tests have faced increased rates of leukemia, thyroid cancer, and other radiation-induced illnesses. The medical community has had to grapple with the challenges of treating these conditions, often with limited resources and knowledge. It also had a lasting impact on the environment, polluting the soil and water. The contamination from nuclear tests and explosions has led to the degradation of ecosystems, affecting plant and animal life. The legacy of nuclear weapons is not just one of human suffering, but also of environmental destruction. As we reflect on the long shadow of nuclear weapons, we must remember the lessons of the past and strive for a future free from the threat of nuclear annihilation. Section 7: Global Reactions, a Call for Peace in a Nuclear World. The bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945 marked a turning point in human history. The sheer devastation caused by these nuclear attacks was unprecedented. The testing of powerful bombs like the Tsar Bomba by the Soviet Union further demonstrated the terrifying potential of nuclear weapons. The Tsar Bomba, the most powerful nuclear weapon ever detonated, had a blast yield of 50 megatons, which is over 3,000 times more powerful than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. These events sent shockwaves around the world, both literally and figuratively. The global community was forced to confront the reality of a new era of warfare, one where the stakes were higher than ever before. People were horrified by the destructive power of these weapons. The images of flattened cities and the suffering of survivors were seared into the collective consciousness of humanity. These events led to a global movement for peace and disarmament. Citizens around the world began to organize and demand an end to the nuclear arms race. Peace rallies, disarmament protests, and anti-nuclear marches became common sights in many countries. Many people, including prominent scientists like Albert Einstein and influential world leaders, called for an end to the production and testing of nuclear weapons. They recognized that the continued existence of these weapons posed an existential threat to humanity. The United Nations became a key platform for these discussions. Various treaties and agreements were proposed and debated, all with the aim of reducing the nuclear threat. The fear of nuclear war had a profound impact on international relations. Countries started talking more, engaging in diplomacy and negotiations to find peaceful solutions to their problems. The Cold War era, despite its tensions, saw numerous efforts to prevent nuclear conflict through dialogue and treaties. Diplomatic efforts such as the Strategic Arms Limitation Talks, SALT, and the later Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, START, were significant steps towards reducing the number of nuclear weapons and easing global tensions. The leaders of the world knew that another world war with these weapons could destroy our planet. The potential for total annihilation was a sobering reality that influenced many decisions during this period. The legacy of Hiroshima and the Tsar Bomba serves as a stark reminder of the terrible cost of war and the destructive power of nuclear weapons. These events are etched into history as warnings of what could happen if humanity does not choose the path of peace. The importance of striving for peace cannot be overstated. War memorials and peace symbols around the world remind us of the sacrifices made and the need to work towards a future free from the threat of nuclear devastation. It is a call to action for all of us to work together. Modern-day peace conferences and international peacekeeping efforts continue to play a crucial role in maintaining global stability and preventing the outbreak of nuclear conflict. To create a safer world free from the threat of nuclear weapons, we must remain vigilant and committed to the cause of disarmament. The voices of those who advocate for peace and the actions of those who work towards disarmament are more important now than ever. Together, we can build a future where the shadow of nuclear war no longer looms over humanity.